Hello. It's I, Andrine, Jewish American Priestess, and I'm here for another Elul Hebrune reading for the month of Elul. We are now at the 8th of Elul, the 4th of September, and we're coming into the second week, which is we have 3 weeks until Rosh Hashanah as of today. And what you may or may not know is that the month of Elul is affiliated with the tribe of Gad, and Gad is the lucky one. It is this exclamation that Leah made when Zilpah gave birth to Gad, saying, "How lucky we are to have another son." And some say that Gad is based on a Semitic deity for luck, and it's unknown, but there's some evidence for it. I found some evidence in the Jewish Encyclopedia where a bunch of critical theorists went on about it. Interestingly, Zilpah's other son, Asher, also may refer to the feminine deity Asherah. So here we are. We're going to do a reading about luck today. Now, I know that some people shy away from this sort of thing, but it's relatively well known that within the Hebrew tradition, amulets have been used for generations. And we have amulets such as little sachets. This one is full of a variety of herbs and salt, and it's got this poppy seed pod on it, some charms with a key. Keys were often used in the making of amulets. So we're going to choose from 3 amulets today, and this is the first one. I made this sachet. Again, it has herbs and spices and kosher salt. It has this amulet with the picture of the moon on it, and a key, and this poppy pod, which I think of as being available for attending to healing and pain. We have several beads, including this bead, which is to ward off the evil eye. And here, that's the first one we're looking at. The second one is, I sometimes use these cinnamon stick amulets as mezuzot because they look like little scrolls, and because of the divine name of Tzimtzumai, which sounds a little bit like cinnamon, but means she who makes space. And some say that this moon of Elul is about that time where we make space in our lives for teshuvah, for returning. And so I have a few mezuzot in my house made out of these cinnamon sticks, and they smell amazing. Additionally, I have a cardamom seed pod on it, some looks like juniper berry there, and some maybe anise. Also, yeah, juniper berry and allspice. I have a little tiny, looks like a bear maybe, and some more beads and another key. So that's one of my mezuzot amulets to commemorate Queen Tzimtzumai, she who makes space. And it helps protect the liminal spaces. All mezuzot protect the liminal spaces, the doorways of our homes. So that's the second one. And then the third one is one of these glass bottle amulets I've made, mostly made out of kosher sea salt. This one has a rosebud on it with a silver bead, and sort of an embossed fabric on the top. It's got cedar, western red cedar, which is a healing herb, another one of the beads to ward off the evil eye, a variety of spices inside. It looks like cinnamon and possibly cardamom and allspice. And that would be just something you might have in your home as a protective amulet to bring in good luck, let's just say. Maybe ward off bad luck. I saw this morning when I was reading about the tribe of Gad that in the Talmud it talks about finding in some people's homes a bed that was set aside for luck to visit. It's not a bed for sleeping in, it's just a bed for luck. So that was all very interesting. So in order to have a good lucky month, we're going to choose from one of these 3 amulets. You may choose the poppy seed sachet with the key, the cinnamon stick mezuzah, or the rosebud bottle amulet today. So take a minute to decide which one calls to you, and we'll do some Hebrune readings for you. Yeah, you can check the timestamps down below to find the reading that is for the amulet that you've chosen today. All right, for those of you who've chosen the Poppy Pod Amulet, again, let's take a look at it. It's got a skeleton key. It's got a pendant with the moon, with the face of the moon on it, and some other flowers here off to the side. We have some beads. This one has a little red fox on it, and some, again, protective, warding off the evil eye beads. So this is the one that we actually hang over the bed where my grandson sleeps, to help him feel protected and safe and lucky in the night. It also smells really wonderful because that bag is full of herbs and spices and chocolate. I think there's some actually cacao in there. So this is your reading for those of you who chose the poppy seed amulet bag. And we'll start by pulling out, I'm thinking of 2 today. Let's pull out 2 today. Start with that and see what else comes up. So for those of you who maybe are looking for healing in your life, because we have this poppy here, the first letter that's coming out is the letter Bet, and the second letter that's coming out is the letter Tet. Alright, let's see what they say. So Bet is about the house. It's about a home and a house. It's the second letter of the alphabet. And it is, in the Paleo Hebrew, it looks like the floor plan of a house. It's kind of harder to see, I think, in the modern Hebrew, but you can kind of get an idea of it. And Bet is one of the double letters, so it has a binary associated with it. It is the foundation of life and death in the binary foundations in the Sefer Yetzirah. Let's not break it. So it's speaking to that choice, that everyone has a choice, that we are given that choice by the divine in our world now to choose life and not to choose death. In the body, it represents the mouth, and you can kind of see it looks like a mouth speaking. It is the first letter of the Torah, Bereshit, in the beginning. And so it does have to do with the speaking of things into existence. So it may be about communication. In time, it represents Shabbat, which just passed yesterday. And so it's about rest. Shabbat are 2 root words, shev and bet, which means sit and house. So sit in your house in order to have some rest. And maybe it's about needing rest right now in your body, because it does represent a house. And there are all kinds of houses. There are buildings and houses of worship and schools, houses of learning. But the body is our house. The body is the home of our soul. And it can be considered our temple. And how do we care for it? So this is speaking to how we can take care of our bodies right now in the world, about how we can rest in order to take care of ourselves and feel more healing, to reduce pain in our lives. And it is about in space, it represents the planet Saturn, which is the one with the rings. And it does have this, there's this idea that there's a holy shrine in which the divine exists in the universe, and it has, and some people imagine it as a cube, and in that cube the Bet is the position of above, the direction above in that holy shrine. So this seems to have something to do with the body, something to do with resting right now and taking the best care of yourself that you can. That seems to be the message that's coming through that letter. And the second letter is Tet. And Tet is a container. It is a vessel of some sort. You can see that it looks like a little kind of cup. It is sometimes seen as a womb as well. So it may have to do with gestation. Right now it is the number 9. It's the 9th of the Hebrew letters, so it has to do with that gestation period of 9 months. And it also represents the word tov, which means goodness. So something good within. So there is something good to be seen within, and we are gestating that right now. Maybe an idea, maybe a project, maybe something we're about to give birth to, whatever it might be. It may be a human, an actual physical human, or some other wonderful thing, something good, again, that is coming to us, that this hides goodness within itself. It's also affiliated with the shofar. The shofar being the horn, the ram's horn that we blow during the month of Elul and on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Because during the shofar service we do 9 blasts. We do sets of 9. So we have 9 staccato blasts. We hold one of the blasts for 9 beats, and there are 9 sets of blasts within the shofar sounding at Rosh Hashanah. So it sounds about rebirth, not just birth, but rebirth. So possibly something is going to be reborn in you soon as we move toward Rosh Hashanah and this idea of teshuvah and returning to ourselves and clearing up things in our lives that need to be cleared up. It is affiliated with the month of Av in the calendar, which just passed, and it is affiliated with the sensation of taste in the body, so something to do with the mouth also. So we have the mouth here and we have taste here. Yeah, it is about the astrological sign Leo. It governs over the astrological sign of Leo, again, which just passed us by back in the month of Av. And so it has to do with each person gestating something, having this potential for goodness coming through. And yeah, the womb, the goodness, the tov. Interestingly, in the book of in the book of Genesis, which starts with the word Breshit, the first use of the word tov is about light. So there's something good within light. And that's what the Tet represents. I want to pull out a couple more letters just to see what else comes up for you. Let's put one above and one below just to see what will assist us right now in moving through this time period with the best of luck. What's going to assist us right now is the Kuf, and what might not be assisting us right now in our journey. We've got the letter Aleph. Interesting. Okay, so Kuf is the thing that's going to assist us, and Kuf is the last letter in the word Tzaddik. Tzaddik, which is a righteous one, somebody who's righteous and does good in the world. A tzaddik is somebody, so Kuf is the one letter that reaches below the line in Hebrew, and so it's about the righteous ones going down to find the broken pieces to repair the world. So maybe something is broken right now, and we need to look for those pieces and bring them back together into oneness in order to repair our bodies, in order to gestate what it is we're gestating. We need to bring those pieces, those disparate parts of ourselves that are lost, and remember them, bring them back into one wholeness right now. That's going to help us right now as we move through this difficult time of healing that is needed, and reduction of pain. And what maybe isn't going to be as useful right now is this letter Aleph. I mean, this position can be either something that isn't helpful or something that we are afraid of. And Aleph is about oneness. It's about unity. It's about the heaven and the earth coming together into one thing, but also being separate, being distinct from each other. So this oneness being in the lower line might indicate in this situation that you're afraid or concerned that you won't be whole again, that whatever is causing you pain or brokenness will not be resolved. But you don't need to fear that. I mean, it's in a lot of pieces. So Aleph is both one and Aleph is 1,000. So it's like the one that got shattered into 1,000 pieces, but it still remains one. So you've got this paradox of the multiplicity and the unity, and they exist simultaneously in the universe. So even though you maybe need some rest, maybe you need to repair your own body or your own home, and that you're gestating something right now that is unknown and yet unborn, but you have this potential for renewal happening. If you're concerned that you will not be able to bring the pieces back together, don't worry. We have the ability. We have the ability to go searching with righteousness, with justice, for those parts that are shattered and broken, and bring them back into the wholeness of one. And that is what is going to get us through this time. I have the sense that I want to pull out one more just to see what our next phase may be. What is our next phase coming after this difficult time of healing that maybe needs to happen to reduce the pain? And what gets to come after we repair and bring those pieces back together? The letter that's coming out, is Yud. Nice. Yud is it is the letter that represents a seed, and it is the letter that is affiliated with the month of Elul, and therefore with the tribe of God, about lucky, the tribe of Gad, which is about luck. So what's coming up next is this seed. And we are in this time right now of gestation, but the seed is part of that. So we have the seed that is representative of the infinite that's contained in one small point. So in this idea of Tzimtzum, where she who makes space had to contract herself like a womb, she had to contract herself in order to make room for the universe to be created. She went down into one point, and then from there expanded into all points. So Yud is the letter that represents that one point. It is the very small thing that holds everything. So it has this manifestation, big bang, single point aura of it. And that seems to be what's coming up. Again, it is affiliated with Elul. It's affiliated with the foundation of sexuality. So maybe having some kind of sexual discovery. It's the foundation of, it rules over the constellation Virgo, which is happening right now in the celestial sky. And so it has to do with that purity and that essence and that recapturing, that rebirth that's going to come from you, from Tet, in order to go back to the basics, go back to the oneness, go back to that purity of the seed. And that's what's coming up for you, for those of you who chose this poppy seed. Again, one of the smallest seeds that exists. We put them on our challah every week. The tiniest of seeds that's going to be there for your healing at this time. And if we can remember to rest and take care of our bodies and reach for the broken parts and trust that we can put them back together into oneness, gestate what needs to be gestated, we will come through into a more pure wholeness that is a compact accumulation of all goodness, all the good that is in Tov, in order for us to be able to expand out when it's time, when the time is ripe. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed your reading today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like to, and share this with a friend. Shavua Tov. Hello. For those of you who chose the cinnamon Tzimtzumai Mezuzah today, I'm just going to give you another look at it. It's got this cardamom pod and some juniper, and I think those are both juniper seeds. Maybe there's one that's allspice. We have a red bead and red thread and a key, a very tiny little key, and some beautiful silver beads, as well as this old keychain that's like came out of my grandmother's jewelry box, so it's got some real juju in it. 2 cinnamon sticks that represent the scrolls. You can see it, how they're curled up there. And so we have this beautiful aromatic amulet that will represent she who makes space and who protects us as we journey through portals at this time in our life. As we're going from Elul into Rosh Hashanah, we travel through a virtual portal, but in each of our doorways of our homes that is marked with a mezuzah. That's that same protective power. So I'm going to set her right up here and pull out some letters for you today. I'm going to start with 2, and then we'll see if we need some more to clarify. And so first we're just going to take out 2 and see what they talk about in this idea of protection and luck. So the first one's coming out of the bag is the letter Gimel. And the second letter that wants to come out today is the letter Samech. Alright. So Gimel is a foot. What's a foot? Gimel is a foot. It is about movement forward. It is about travel. It is the first letter of the word for camel, gamel. It sounds very much like Gimel. It is about walking, movement, progress forward, running and returning like electricity, as was seen by Yaakov when he saw the angels going up to heaven and back to earth in his dream. It's about doing good deeds. Some say that it is the foot of a wealthy person running to give tzedakah to a poor person. So it is about giving, but it's also about weaning and withdrawal. So it can be both. It can be both reward and punishment. And it represents the binary foundation of peace and evil in the Sefer Yetzirah. So it has that binary of what is peaceful and calming and what is agitating and evil. Like in the Garden of Eden, like in Gan Eden, there was that tree that represented the knowledge of good and evil. So that's what Gimel is about. It has a lot of affiliations. It is about, interestingly, Jupiter in space, which is called Tzedek, which means justice. So it's got the planetary connection with Tzedek, Jupiter, in the planets, but it also is the first letter of the word Gad, which is the tribe that we're talking about with luck. So some say that in that Semitic Gad deity that he was known as Jupiter in some of the other tribes. So there's a lot of connections here about luck. So some people might say by Jupiter, or by Gad. Oh my Gad. So it has all these affiliations. It is in time, it governs over the day of Sunday, which is today. And in the body and soul, it is about the right eye. Let's see, what else? In the celestial temple, which is sometimes perceived as a cube, the place where the divine dwells, Gimel represents the lower level. So it's that face that is facing down, the bottom, the earth. I guess it's not earth, but it's the bottom part of a cube. Gimel is that, rules over that direction. And it has to do with the number 3. It is the 3rd letter of the Hebrew alphabet, so it has to do with the number 3. For instance, the 3 creation elements of air, water, and fire. And again, the direction below. So it's about walking, it's about movement, it's about going forward, doing good deeds, and or reward and punishment, and or peace and evil. So as a binary, we want to choose that which is peaceful and not which is agitating. So that is up with the Gimel. And then, interestingly, what's up with the Samech is the Samech is it's about being surrounded with comfort, but it also represents agitation. In the foundations of the Sefer Yetzirah, Samech is affiliated with the sense of agitation. And it used to be in the Paleo Hebrew significantly different looking, and it represented a thorn. In part because thorn bushes or thorn hedges were used to protect fields and homes in ancient times. So even though this is a circle and very much not pointy, it's got a little tiny point at the top, if you can see that, it did in the past represent thorniness. And so it has to do with cycles and circles and spirals and seasons, and it's that which surrounds us, the surrounding energy. It is the first letter of the word smicha, which means ordination. So somebody who is encircled and given authority when they are ordained. And it has to do with, it's the number 60 in Gematria, so it has to do with circles like there's 60 minutes in an hour, and 60 seconds and a minute, and 60 minutes in a circle. So it's got this idea of circularity and containing and being surrounded by comfort and kindness. So that's what's up for this. We have both this idea of movement forward and the binary of peace and evil, and this idea of being surrounded, and the foundation of agitation. I'm not sure exactly how those are related for you right now, but let's pull out a couple more letters just to get some clarification. I'm going to pull out one up above that will hopefully help us clarify what will help us through this time where we're moving forward, looking for comfort, possibly trying to get some good luck and some protection as we move through this liminal space that is the month of Elul. And the first letter that comes out is the letter Resh. And I'm going to pull one for the bottom two, and the bottom one is the one that's going to give us an idea of what isn't helping us in this situation. So that letter is the letter Yud. All right, the letter Resh stands for Rosh, which means head. So it has to do with the head in the body. It has to do with beginnings. So Resh stands for Rosh, which is head, but it also stands for Rosh Hashanah, which is the head of the year, Rosh Chodesh, which is the head of the month, which we just passed last week. And we have this idea of beginnings because also in the beginning, the first word in the Torah is Bereshit, and that means in the beginning, in being Be, and Resh is, again, beginning. So we have this idea of something's beginning, and it is important to embrace that beginning, whatever it is, even if it's a little bit scary or agitating, or you're running around trying to make it happen. I think the Reish here is telling us, go ahead and begin. Whatever it is that you need to do, go ahead and start. Don't have to finish it right now, but do get started. It is having to do with, in the planetary realm, each of the letters rules over one of the celestial bodies or one of the constellations, and Reish represents or rules over the planet Mercury. Mercury is the planet that is affiliated with communication. Right now we are in, we're almost there. So we're in what they call the retro shadow of Mercury retrograde, when it looks like Mercury is going backwards and communications kind of go kablooey. That starts happening at the end of this week and goes through October. So we're in this shadow time where things already may be kind of not working very well electronically or communication-wise. So focus on communication right now, and focus on beginning things. And it also has to do with this binary of seed and barrenness. So plant something. Try to nourish whatever it is you're planting and get it started. And that will help us through this time of movement and this time of comfort. And what isn't going to help us, or what maybe we're afraid of, is the Yud. And interestingly, the Yud represents that seed. So Reish is a seed, and so is Yud. Yud is the 10th letter of the alphabet, and it has to do with that very, very small speck that represents everything. So it's like when the divine was creating the universe and had to contract with that tzimtzum, that curling back, so that contraction could happen, so that birth could happen. There was that one point, and the Big Bang exploded out of that, and that's what the Yud represents, this tiny, tiny little seed that holds everything within it. It can have to do with, again, a seed that is going to explode and blossom into something wonderful. It could have to do with sperm. It does correspond to sexuality in the foundation of the Sefer Yetzirah, so it could have to do with planting a seed in that way, sexually. And because of that, there's something happening. And so since this is on the lower line, it may be, not that we shouldn't focus on the seed, but that we shouldn't fear it. I mean, sometimes when things are on the lower line, it means that we are afraid of them. Either we're afraid they will or won't happen. So don't be afraid of the seed. Don't be afraid of planting that seed. Go ahead and begin. That's what we're getting the message here. Go ahead and begin whatever it is you're going to begin. Don't be afraid of the seed. Don't be afraid of sexuality. Don't be afraid of the month of Elul. Yud is corresponding to the actual month we're in. Don't be afraid of that seed. Don't be afraid of that small oneness, that one tiny point that's going to explode into something new and wonderful and ideally comforting that will help us move forward. Go ahead and plant. Go ahead and plant the seed. Start the thing you're hoping to start, and do not fear what will come of it. It's going to be okay. And if you do fear, just start. Just do one thing. Just go back up here and start whatever it is you need to start. And I'm going to pull out one more letter just to see what it is that's going to come right after this, if we move through this time with the Gimel and we get the comfort and we plant the seed and we don't fear the seed. What is it that will come for us as we move forward in this time? One more letter, please. And the letter that's coming up is Vav, and that's lovely. Vav is about connection. It is this tall, straight spine that represents a standing person, but it is also a connecting letter. So it is literally the word "and" in Hebrew. In the first book of the Torah, the first time it's mentioned is in the phrase heaven and earth. So it's that which connects us to the divine. So we've got this idea of connection. We've got this idea of that which is a taproot that goes deep into the soil. So these seeds that you've planted from the Resh and the Yud will go deep into the soil and become a strong taproot and will reach all the way up to the heavens. It is that which connects the earth and the sky, the human and the divine. And it's also a peg or a hook. In the Paleo-Hebrew, it represented a peg and a hook, and in the Mishkan, they were usually made of silver and gold. So it's a very valuable connector that would connect not just the Mishkan walls to the ground, and not just the walls of the tent to each other, but the veils that surrounded the Holy of Holy were connected with these pegs and these hooks. So reach forward to that knowledge that you will be receiving connection out of the situation, whatever it is you're rushing around with right now, moving forward, maybe giving tzedakah, maybe just trying to put one foot in front of the other, looking for comfort in your life. Plant the seed of the thing that needs to be started. Do not fear this time, and do not fear the seed that you're planting will not grow, because we know if we just start, if we just take one step, if we just move forward one thing, we will get through to this time of rootedness and connection. And for those of you who chose the cinnamon mezuzah today, that is your reading. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe, tell a friend, and I would love to see you again next time. Shavua Tov. Okay, for those of you who chose the glass container amulet with the rosebud, and you can see your little protection against the evil eye bead in the bottom. We've got some gold leaf. I think there's cacao in there, and some, yeah, definitely cacao. We've got some kosher salt and western red cedar and some cloves. A delicious smelling amulet for you to stand for luck in this time of the tribe of God. So I'm going to set this here where you can see it, hopefully. And I'm going to start by pulling out 2 letters just to see what's up in the general flavor of this reading. And then we'll pull out some more to get some clarification. So the first letter that's going to come out of the bag today for you is the letter Kuf. Kuf wants to come. And the second letter that wants to come out for you today is, oh, okay, we've got this one. I still haven't repaired that. That, I'm going to find the other half for you. I believe that is Tzadi. I think that's the only one that's broken in here, and I really need to glue that. Interesting that it is, wow, that it's coming up in conjunction with Kuf. I'll keep looking for it while I talk to you. So the letter Kuf is, I might have to pour these out. Let's see, I'll put them in this dish here. And then put them back in the bag. I'll just set this here so you can see what I'm doing. Set those aside. Gently pour them into this. Oh, there's tiny pieces. There it is. Yes. So there's our Tzadi. So the letter Kuf, the one on the left here, is representative of a tzaddik, as is the letter Tzadi. So they're both about righteousness and justice in the world. And Kuf represents the last letter of Tzaddik, and if you put them this way in Hebrew, everything's read right to left, so it basically represents the word Tzaddik. So Kuf, since I pulled that one out first, we'll talk about it, is the number 100 in Gematria. And it being 100, it represents the manifestation of 10 times 10, 10 being the letter Yud. Yud is the letter affiliated with the month of Elul. So this is a very much a ultimate manifestation of that one point that is Yud. And Yud is that smallest of the letters that appears in every other letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And you could say literally everything is made up of points, the same way everything is made up of atoms in the universe. So 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 is Kuf. It is the only letter in the Hebrew alphabet that reaches below the line, and it is said that the Tzaddik is the righteous one who goes down to find the sparks of the vessels that were broken that contained the Holy One, like this glass container. So when the Tzimtzum occurred, when the contraction of the divine occurred, so that space would be made, as we said earlier, that this is the time of she who makes space, so that space could be given in order for the universe to be created. The light of the divine, goes one story, was put into vessels, and those vessels could not contain that light, and so the vessels shattered, and that light scattered everywhere into all of the beings of the universe. So those divine sparks exist in everything, including you and me. And the Tzaddik's job is to go find those divine sparks and bring them back together to create the oneness of the Holy One. And we're always looking for that in others. We're always looking for that divine spark that we recognize. Our divinity recognizes divinity in others. And that's what connection is about. So Kuf is the one who goes down to look for those sparks. As I said, it goes below the line. And it is also the letter that begins the word kadosh, which is holiness. So holiness, it's maybe not the best translation of the word kadosh, but it is that which is designated for service to the divine. So it's mostly about being designated. And each of us are designated our own way for service to the divine. So Kuf represents kadosh, holiness, or designation for service to the divinity, and it represents that going down to find the sparks, the klipa, the shells of the vessels that were shattered when divinity could no longer be held as it tried to make space for the universe. I think this is a fascinating letter to come up for this particular reading in the month of Elul, and as we're talking about that idea of Tzimtzum, that idea of making space in this month for what goodness is going to come in. It also has to do with the foundation of sleep, so about being able to rest and take care of oneself. And next to that, interestingly, is Tzadi. And Tzadi, my broken Tzadi, is fascinating that we got both of these letters from Tzaddik. Tzadi is about, again, righteousness. It's a bent nun. I don't know if you can see it very well because it's broken. It's a nun that's kind of bending over in humility. Nun already means humility, but it's bending over, and then it has a little yud on its back. So it's carrying the divine with it as it bends down, bows down in humility in the world, and it's there also hunting for these sparks. That's what the bent part is that it's looking on the ground or looking in the world for the sparks of the divine that have shattered in my broken Tzadi right now. It represents the number 90, and so it comes right before Kuf in the alphabet, and that 90 is the age of the matriarch Sarah when she gave birth to Itzhak. Now, Itzhak also has a letter Tzadi in it, and that speaks to the fact that each child who's born, again, including you and me, has the capacity to become a tzaddik, to become one who is working for justice, who is gathering up the broken pieces to make wholeness again, and bring the oneness back together. And it represents the foundation of thought. So in contrast, we've got thought and sleep. So what we think when we're awake, and what maybe we dream when we're asleep. And that's a fascinating pairing that's coming up for you as the central theme in this reading today. I'm going to take out 2 more letters to see what it is that we can do to clarify what's going to be useful right now and what isn't going to be useful right now. So the one that's going to be useful is going to go above. I'm going to reach in and pull it out and see what I get. What's going to be useful right now is Ayin. And what's not going to be of help for you right now in your journey through this righteous path in the month of Elul is Shin. So Ayin is what's going to be useful right now, and Ayin is about, it represents an eye, so it's about vision, it's about clarity, it's about seeing clearly, and it's also about being watched over by divinity. So you've got all the parts of the eye here, and the letter Ayin also represents the number 70. So in Gematria, when you have 10 times something, it's that ultimate manifestation. 7 is the number of days in creation, and so it's a completion number, and 10 times 7 is this ultimate completion. So something is coming to an end. Obviously the year is coming to an end, but maybe something else in your life is coming to an end, and you need to embrace that, allow that ending to come in, and so that you can move forward with justice right now in your life in this time of Elul as we're preparing for the new year. And make sure you can see clearly what it is that needs to come to an end. The 70 has a lot to do with different cycles. So it's got the 7 days, there were 70 descendants of Noah in the ark, or came out of the ark. There were 70 elders in the desert, 70 seats on the Sanhedrin, which is the governing body of the rabbinate, early days, and interestingly, each of those cycles of 70 had one more to it. So there were 70 descendants of Noah plus Noah. They had 70 elders in the desert plus Moses. They have 70 seats on the Sanhedrin plus the Nasi, which is the prince, or the leader of the Sanhedrin. So all of these are 70 plus 1, and 1 is the letter Aleph. And in the Zohar, a lot of times the Ayin and the Aleph are interchangeable because they both are letters without sound. They both need something else to be able to be pronounced. So they're interchangeable sometimes. So it could also mean oneness. It's got both that completion idea and that idea of unity. And again, as we've got this multiplicity, which is that oneness that was shattered, and we're trying to gather up the sparks, we need to come back to the oneness and the multiplicity and hold that paradox of the multiplicity of the divine and the oneness of the divine at the same time. Ayin also represents laughter. So maybe right now, during this time of serious tzaddik searching for the sparks, you need to do a little laughing. As I said, Yitzhak has the letter tzadi in it, and Yitzhak means laughter. It means either that Sarah laughed when she heard, when she was 90 years old, that she was going to give birth to a baby. It also has to do with other joking and teasing kind of things, but Ayin is the foundation of laughter, so those are connected. They even look a little bit alike. They are different, but they look a little bit alike. So what's going to help us through this serious time of preparing and holiness and getting ready for Rosh Hashanah during the month of Elul is laughter and vision and clarity of vision, and that oneness. And knowing and trusting that we're being watched over by the divine. And what's going to not help us so much is the Shin. Now the Shin, I mean, this position, I'll read it a couple different ways. This position can either be what isn't going to help us or what we are afraid won't help us. So Shin is about fire. The letter Shin is in the word Aish, which means fire. And it's got these 3 flames on the top. You can see 3 yuds on 3 vavs, and they are all on fire here. It's one of the mother letters in the Sefer Yetzirah, so it represents fire in terms of a creation element. Fire was an important part in creation, along with air and water. Fire is that which made the sun and the moon and the stars up in the sky. So it has to do with the position above in creation, and it has to do with heat. So this time of year when it's summer and hot out, it has to do with the head in the body. So it can be about passion, and it can be about hot-headedness. So what maybe won't help us in this situation is getting mad or having a lot of passion that bring heat to our heads, or about thinking too much, thinking things through so hard that we get confused or panicked. So don't get into your head too much. Don't get too hot. Make sure you stay cool in this last days of summer when it's really hot out. We're having a heat wave right now again in Portland. But connect to your inner fire. Don't be afraid of that inner passion. Don't be afraid of that passion that lives inside you, that allows you to see clearly. Maybe the fire is lighting your way so that you can see more clearly what it is you need to be doing right now, or what it is that you need to do to see those sparks. I mean, interestingly, fire also gives off sparks, and that is part of divinity. It is part of creation. So allow those sparks. Don't be afraid of those sparks. Don't be afraid to pick them up. They're not going to burn you. We're supposed to be here at this time collecting sparks, seeing clearly. We may use the fire to see clearly, but don't let the fire get out of control. Don't let it run wild and burn things down. Tend that fire. Let it be there, but don't, again, get into your head too much at this time. And if that is the case, what can we expect to come up next for us in this reading? I'm going to pull out one more letter that will represent the next thing that's coming for us right now. For those of you who chose that glass amulet. And I have the letter Yud. Fabulous. So the letter Yud is that spark. It's that oneness. It is that one point out of which everything explodes. I think we had this in all 3 readings today. So it represents a seed. It represents the number 10, which is like the 10 fingers, that which we use to move forward in the world and do things. It represents the foundation of sexuality. It represents a seed or a sperm. That one thing that holds a lot. It's that one small thing that holds everything. It's when the divine contracted into one point in order to make space for the universe to be created, and then exploded forth. So that's what's coming up. And Yud is the letter that is affiliated with the month of Elul. So if we can take time to be searching righteously for those lost sparks that have been shattered from the vessel down in the earth, that we are striving for justice right now, for holiness and justice, and that we are bent over looking for those sparks, but we have that Yud on our back. We have the divinity on our back, because Yud is the first letter of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. Then we will be able to see clearly, that we will see things clearly and be able to laugh a little bit at ourselves, that we can pick up those pieces of sparks that we maybe are mistaking for fire, that we don't get overwhelmed by the passion or the anger or the heat in the year, and just bring it back up to that ability to see, use the fire to see but not to run amok. Then we'll move forward into this space where we're almost ready to burst forward into the new year. And that, for those of you who chose this glass amulet for luck, is your reading for this week in the month of Elul. And I will see you next time. I wish you a good week. Shavua Tov. If you like, please click like and subscribe. And also tell your friends. I would love to see you again. Thank you. Shavua Tov.